Welcome. This is a video intended for students taking Applied Math 40S in your personal finance unit. And we're going to look at how you use your TI84 graphing calculator to show the graph of the value of a simple interest investment and a compound interest investment. You've probably talked with your teacher already about how the value of a compound interest investment will grow faster than a simple interest investment at the same interest rate. We're just going to look at how do you actually get that into your calculator. So we'll start with a simple interest investment. You already know that the formula for simple interest is I equals PRT, but that gives us a bit of a problem when we want to graph that on a graphing calculator. This calculates the interest on a simple interest investment. When you're graphing a simple interest investment, what you want to graph is the actual dollar value of the investment. So it creates a small problem in our equation when we put it into our calculator. The value of a simple interest investment at any given time is whatever the initial amount invested was, the principal, plus the interest, and that comes from the interest formula. So it's what you put in the bank, for example, plus the interest after some period of time. So when I want to put that into my calculator, I'm going to put it into Y1. And for this question, where we're graphing a $3,000 investment that's earning 4% simple interest, again, that's what tells you you're doing simple interest, for a time period of at least 15 years, what I'm going to want to put in my calculator is 3,000, which is the initial amount invested, plus 3,000 times the rate, which in this case is 4%. Make sure you put the percent in as a decimal. And then normally if we were calculating this, we would put a specific time. We would want to know after 3 years or 5 years, but we want to look over a time period, over a span of time, not for one specific time. So we're going to, in place of time, instead of putting a number, we're going to put X and let X be the time, which is in years, right? And the Y is going to be the value of the investment. So I'm going to come to my calculator. You can already see I've cleared out the memory. I'm going to hit Y equals and just type in what I've got there. 3,000 plus 3,000 times 0.04 times X. Now when I hit graph, we are not going to see very much, and that's for a couple of reasons. The main reason being the window is not adjusted correctly. So let's go in and play with our window a little bit. X represents the time in years. So when I invest this money, that would be at time 0. I'm not interested in seeing anything below time of 0. So I'm going to put 0 in for my time, my minimum time. And for maximum time, I need to see at least 15 years. So in here, I want to put at least 15. You might want to put 18 or 20, something a little bit more. As long as you've got at least 15 years, you're good. But again, when I hit graph, I'm still not going to see anything. And that comes from the value of the investment. Initially, this investment is worth $3,000. And the Y variable represents the value of the investment. Well, when I go back into my window and I look at my Y values, the highest value I'm looking at right now is $10, which is way below even our initial amount. So for a minimum amount, I want to put at least $3,000, right? Or I want to go down to at least $3,000, or even maybe a little bit lower. And the reason you might put in a value a little lower than your minimum value is so that the graph doesn't start right at the bottom of the screen. And then for maximum value, I'm just going to take a guess after 15 years what this investment would be worth. So I know it'll be worth more than 3,000. So I'm just guessing 4,000. I'm going to press graph and take a look. Now I can see some graph. I see it starting at $3,000 at time 0. But I can see the value to about half of our time, 7 or 8 years, give or take. I would really like to see the value spread right across the whole graph. So what that means is I need to raise my Y max so I can see more of the top of this investment. So I can go back into window. I'm going to pick a higher value for Y max. I'm going to pick 6,000. I'm not mathematically determining these. It's just sort of a guess and check kind of thing. And I'm going to hit graph. I'm happier with that now because for 15 years, I can see the value of the investment at the beginning of the 15 years, and I can physically see the value of the investment at the end of the 15 years. You would at this point then go on to answer some questions about that investment, but we'll leave that for a separate video. We're just worried about getting the graph on the calculator. So now what if we're looking at a compound interest investment? Well, this is the compound interest formula, slightly changed. You normally have an A here, but we're using Y, which again is the value of the investment. And you don't have to play with the equation at all because this equation does calculate the value of the investment after some amount of time. All we have to do is put it in the calculator using the calculator's buttons. I'm going to put it into Y2. I'm going to leave the first graph there, so I'm going to enter this into Y2 when I get to that point. But let's look at what we need to put in. P is still 3,000 times 1 plus, my rate is 4%, over N. So N is the number of compounding periods in a single year. You can see this is being compounded monthly, which means it's being done 12 times in a year. So N would be 12. And then that bracket is to the exponent of N times T. So N again is 12. But we have the same thing here that we had with the simple interest investment. I don't want to look at a specific time. I want to look at the value over time as time goes by. So instead of putting in a number for T, I'm going to put an X. So how do we get that into our calculator? Well, it's 3,000. You can put a bracket and then just go 1 plus 0.04 divided by 12, end the bracket. And here's where it gets a little tricky. Your calculator and exponents can sometimes be a little bit weird. So to get to the power of, I'm going to press that button. I'm now in the exponent and I'm going to put 12 X. You just want to make sure that both the 12 and the X are in the exponent. With older graphing calculators, you used to have to put that exponent in brackets. With the newest system version, you don't have to do that. With your calculators that you use, that you borrow from our classroom, they will show this. If you're looking at this video with an older graphing calculator, though, just bear in mind you're going to have your to the power of symbol written in here, and then the exponent should be in brackets to show that the 12 and the X are in the exponent. Okay, so I'm going to hit graph. There's my first simple interest investment, and you can see sneaking along here. Here is the compound interest investment. Now, if it grew so fast that it grew off the top of the screen, I might again have to adjust Y max in order to see it for the full 15 years, but it didn't, so I'm good. I can see my simple interest investment and my compound interest investment for the full 15-year span. Okay, hope that helps you get the graph on your graphing calculator, and thanks for watching the video.